Assalamu alaikum. Peace be upon you all. This is your host, Aminah Ahmed, and you're watching Muslim Network TV. Welcome back to another episode of NextGen, where we seek to amplify the voices of young people and those who are empowering the next generation. You're watching us on Galaxy 19 Satellite, Muslim Network TV, Amazon Fire TV, Roku, and Apple TV. And it is my absolute honor today to have Tayyaba Syed. As someone who grew up as an avid reader, I spent most of my time in the library. I think I was at the library more than I was at home. It is so empowering to see someone like Sister Tayyaba Syed, who is a multiple award-winning author, journalist, and storyteller who has written over 20 children's books, including The Blessed Bananas and Hafsa's Kisses, and has conducted over 150 literary faith-based presentations domestically and abroad. Sister Tayyaba, thank you so much for being here with us today.
Assalamu alaikum. Thank you for having me.
Now, I came across your work when I was in middle school. I think the book that I got my hand on was not really written for 13-year-olds, but I had never seen something of that sort. A Muslim girl, as the character, and I was amazed that, there is something out there like that. And I really missed out on that as a kid growing up in elementary. I didn't read books where phrases that are used in my Muslim household were used, where the main character is introduced to the clothing that Muslim women wear. So thank you for the work that you are doing.
Well, thank you for having me. I'm excited to be here, and I really appreciate your support. This is, in my opinion, very, very important and necessary work, and I'm hoping there will be more Muslim authors out there, especially women, showing a positive message and view into what it's like being a Muslim here in the West.
Definitely. And obviously you have written, like I said, over 20 books, but I want to kind of take it back to where it all started from. What inspired you to go into journalism, to go into writing children's books? And, was there a particular moment, or is this something that kind of built up as you were growing up?
So for me, it was, I noticed this void all throughout my adolescence that, I myself am an avid reader, and books was that tool for me to be able to see and understand those around me. And I unfortunately didn't see myself in the books that I was reading growing up. Books can either be mirrors or windows. And for me, they were mainly windows, not mirrors, because I didn't see myself reflected in these books. And I assume this is just how Western literature is. It doesn't include everybody. And so I started writing as a means for kids to get to know me and connect with them and show them how similar we really are. We can have shared experiences. I like pizza. You like pizza too. I like basketball. Same here. And I started writing stories as a kid, but I didn't really think that was something that I could do as a career. And in college, I actually went to UIC. I was in the honors college. And at that time, I was studying biology, looking to pursue a pre-health field. So I had joined their magazine at the honors college for pre-health related students who were studying and pursuing those careers. And I realized I could merge my love of science and writing. And within a year, I was promoted to editor. And I was like, oh, this is really powerful that I can use this platform to be able to share my love of science and writing. I kind of put that on the back burner once I got married and I had kids. And now my eldest, who when she was younger, we were bringing back books and books, bags of books from the library. And I noticed that same void was there, that, there wasn't diversity. It didn't talk about our faith. It didn't talk about our culture. And I was like, well, I could either just wait another 30 years to see if there'll be more books that include my faith and my cultures, or all the cultures that Islam is part of, or I could just start writing them. So that's kind of how it went. But my book, The Blessed Bananas, wasn't intended initially as a book. I wanted to kind of continue this tradition that we come up oral storytelling.
Right.
I was doing it as a puppet show And it just was resonating, and like the kids were going crazy because, like you said, they were understanding phrases, they were connecting with the characters, they were feeling like they were seen, and finally giving them a sense of belonging. And it kind of just organically happened that a publisher found me and wanted to publish the book, and it's been quite a journey since then. So.
And it's amazing how when you were growing up, you didn't see, what you call those mirrors. And then with your daughter, I know you're a mother of 3 children. With your daughter, you didn't see that either. So there has been that gap for quite a long time, and the fact that you're bridging that is amazing. What do you hope your work will do to kind of communicate to communities outside of our own? What do you hope it does to people outside of the Muslim community?
I feel like a lot of times the books that have Muslim characters show Islam as the problem. Mm-hmm. And it's like this constant struggle that the person is uncomfortable in their skin, and they feel like even in their home or their family or their community, they don't belong. And that's kind of, I want us to get away from that, because that's not necessarily our experience. We're told that Islam came strange and is going to leave strange, meaning like we are meant to stand out. And so obviously this is something that we can highlight in our books and show the positive aspect of who we are as Muslim. Like it doesn't always have to be the hijab struggle or the identity struggle or the faith struggle, because Islam can be part of the solution. And I hope we can start seeing more of that in books with Muslim characters. But I don't know if really that sells in mainstream literature,
Thank you for saying that, because I read a lot of YA now, and you have Muslim authors, I don't mean to throw shade or anything like that, but you have Muslim authors writing about the Muslim experience, and it's just full of feeding into stereotypes. Like you said, that is what sells. And I remember in high school, it was my freshman year of high school, and my teacher, she wanted to kind of incorporate authors of different backgrounds into the readings that she assigned. And one of the authors in one of the books was written by a Muslim woman, and it was about a Muslim girl in America. And the whole book was about how she falls in love with, someone that's not from her religion, and how she absolutely hates her religion and how she wants to get away from it. And I don't know if that's, it's just not the experience of many Muslims. And, people that were reading that were not just Muslims. There were people outside of our community, and it was only feeding into that stereotype. How do you think we can get away from that? Honestly, I know you write children's books. I want you to go into other genres, for very selfish reasons. But how
you sound like my eldest. She's always telling me.
Please, I know, we need you. Really.
She's 18, and she's like, Mama, when are those books going to come that I can read, that we need to read, the young adults? And honestly, I'm actually working on a book right now that I want to be able to cater to that age group, because I feel like it's such an impressionable, formidable time for the youth. And there's not enough that you guys can fall back on and rely on. So I know that void is there. That's something that really we need to work on. Even it's my dream to be able to write a YA romance for Muslims. That's like, it's cute and it's like a rom-com, and it's like we don't have to deal with all the crazy stuff, but it's still inspiring. I hate giving this reference, but I think it's important to understand this idea of, your question of like, where do I want to see this going? I want us to be able to bring our values and our belief system into our books, right? Mm-hmm. I actually presented with a Muslim author who's quite popular with her children's books right now, and she flat out said, "I don't have any message in my books." And I feel like that's a lost opportunity, because when I began this journey of putting my writing out there, my intention was as a means of dawah, as a means of bringing a positive image of Islam and showing who we truly are as Muslims. Now, that doesn't mean we write perfect characters that don't have flaws and are not vulnerable, because of course that's not relatable either. But again, it's showing somebody that is uncomfortable in their skin and wants to leave their faith because, it's stopping them from living their life. That's not our experience. That's not the experience of many individuals, and I want to be able to show, okay, so what is that experience? What is that positive Muslim experience? Yes, you will have struggles, but how do you overcome them with your faith? And I would love to write a cute romance novel. And the example I think of is, the Twilight series. Have you read those?
Yes.
I'm not encouraging anybody to read them. But unfortunately, I did read those. And Stephanie Meyer's, like, if you have, and that's important, like, even the Muslim books that are out there with Muslim characters written by Muslim authors, we were kind of talking about this before we started, that's not necessarily how we want to be represented.
Right.
Because every author, whether they're Muslim or not, but every author brings their own values, their own principles, their own belief system into their books, whether they intend to or not. Even J.K. Rowling will, if you've watched her interviews, will say that. There's a lot of her Christian upbringing that she has brought into her books. But going back to Stephanie Meyer's, why did these books go so famous and so popular, especially amongst young teen women? It was, you have this 100-year-old vampire who's a high schooler, and then he falls in love with this teenage girl, and they don't consummate their relationship, right? He's old school and wants to get married before, anything happens. And readers were drawn to that. And that is, although it's about vampires, but Stephanie Meyer's is a Mormon, and that's part of their Mormon belief system, and how, she wanted to highlight that in the books. And so, we can have a book about people living in outer space and flying on dragons or whatever, and they just happen to be Muslim. It doesn't need to be didactic stories, but they can be solid characters with depth, and they just happen to be Muslim. So I'd like to see more of that. I hope, inshallah, I can also write things like that, if I get more barakah in my time, inshallah. But it's definitely needed, yes.
Yeah. And in reading fiction, you want that story. I love reading sci-fi and fantasy. And then that character also happens to be Muslim. And you see kind of, I think in all books, you see the values, what's important to the character, and conveying that through a Muslim character would be amazing. Sister Tayyaba, we will be right back after our short break. All of you are watching us on Muslim Network TV, Galaxy 19 Satellite, Apple TV, and Roku TV. We'll be right back. Welcome back to NextGen. We're here with author and award-winning journalist Tayyaba Syed. Now, Sister Tayyaba, we were talking about what got you into writing, that void that is there, that gap that is there in terms of Muslim representation in books. Now, I want to ask you, what is your message to other upcoming writers? What do you want to share with them that you wish someone had told you when you stepped foot into this field that not many people are in our community?
I think it's important to understand that who we are as Muslims and the values that we have are universal. And one of the first pieces that my essays that was published by NPR, they had a prompt for what does it mean to be Muslim in America? And at that time, my eldest was in preschool, maybe she was 4 years old, and then my son, he was still nursing, he was just a baby. And my father, Allah have mercy on his soul, was quite sick. So I would drop my daughter off at school, and I'd come with my son, and I would take care of him. I would help my mom in whichever way. And that was my life. Like, that's what it meant for me to be a Muslim, part of this sandwich generation. And I just wrote about that, taking care of my parents and my children at the same time. And that's who I am. And I remember before I hit the send button, I was nervous because I was like, it was for NPR, like National Public Radio, like why would they pick this piece? What's so exciting about this, right? I'm just changing diapers and taking my dad to his doctor's appointments, whatever. But I talked about Islam. I talked about the role and the rank and the honor parents are given in our faith. And I talked about the importance of motherhood. I talked about love and family, just things that everybody can relate to. And so I asked my husband, I'm like, would they even want to publish this? And he said, you are reaching them at a human level. And that's something that can connect all of us. Mm-hmm. And lo and behold, it was one of the few essays that was selected. And that kind of gave me that stamp of approval that, yes, my story matters. And that's what I want everybody to know, is that each of our stories matter and they are so important to share. Because even if you and I don't have the same lived experiences, that doesn't mean that we can't develop empathy for one another. We can't have an understanding and develop compassion for one another. And that's so important, especially with what's always being fed on media against Muslims. And I'm actually part of this faith book club where we get together. I get together with other Jewish and Christian women, and there's a few other Muslim women, and we talk about our faiths. And they tell me time and time again, they're like, because we know you, because we have understood who you are and what your faith is, we don't believe all the negative and the wrong stuff that's portrayed about Muslims. And that can only happen when we go out there and we share our faith, whether it's through our writing, through our actions, through our interactions. And I also serve on my local school board for my district here. And that's also, I'm the only minority on the board. And so it's so important for us to be out there and be seen and heard. And it's scary because I'm an introvert, believe it or not. But when we do things for Allah's sake, He opens up doors for us, inshallah. So please get out there, share your stories, write them. When I first started doing journalism, it was easy because nobody saw my face, right? I could just kind of hide behind my words. But I realized the more and more my work was getting popular, I needed to stand by my words. And if you really want to develop readership, people need to trust you. People need to get to know you and learn about who you are. And we have social media for that now, which is a whole other discussion, but it's important if you use it for the right reasons.
Right. And before we end here today, I want, for our audience to know where they can reach your work, they can read their book. For people who might have younger siblings, who have kids, where can they, get in contact with you, and where can they get your work?
So my website is the best way to find my books. It's tayyabasyed.com. I'm also on Instagram and Facebook and Twitter, which is, I'm still learning. Okay.
I love Twitter. I will teach you.
Thanks. But all of those, you can find me at Tayyaba Writes as my handle.
All right. Thank you so much, Sister Tayyaba Syed. Thank you for sharing your story and your words of encouragement to our viewers. We appreciate the work that you're doing.
Thank you so much, Aminah.
And to all of our viewers, inshallah, we will see you next week, Wednesday at 7:00 p.m. Central Time at NextGen. Thank you all so much for tuning in. Assalamu alaikum. Peace be upon you all.